last video, I asked the question, are fans ruining Star Wars? And in this video, I'm going to ask a different question, and that is, are Star Wars authors ruining Star Wars? And, you know, as I mentioned in the last video, I'm a very big fan of the Expanded Universe. I've read just about every single Expanded Universe book. I purchased all of them since, you know, the release date that the majority of them actually came out, and read them basically right away. And I was doing that since I was a kid, so I've kept up with the Expanded Universe very well. And as I said in the previous video, that was kind of, you know, if you're talking about what your Star Wars is, what trilogy you grew up with, or, you know, what was Star Wars to you, for me, that really was my Star Wars, was the Expanded Universe. So with the new canon, of course, I was a little disappointed at the loss of the thing that I considered to be my Star Wars, but I wanted to keep up with the books and the new canon as well. And I've been pretty happy with the movies for the most part. The books, I haven't been very happy with the books that have been released now. It kind of seems like there's so much filler in the novels that are being released now. There's not a lot of substance, I guess, in a lot of what's been put out. Some I really love, though. Bloodlines I thought was fantastic. That's my favorite of the new canon, and I love the Thrawn book. Of course, anything by Timothy Zahn is great. But anyway, that's not really the point of this, whether the books are good or not. What has been interesting in the way that Star Wars fandom has kind of divided against itself is the way that some authors and individuals from Lucasfilm seem to have kind of, well, fanned the flames, I guess, or tried to promote division. And the way that people, certain individuals, have behaved on social media has been frustrating, to say the least. Now, one particular author, Paul Kemp, and Paul Kemp wrote he wrote Lords of the Sith. That was the book in the new canon that he wrote, but he wrote some older Republic books as well. Deceived, the Old Republic. I liked that book. I thought that one was pretty good. Lords of the Sith I actually haven't read. But anyway, I follow Star Wars authors on Twitter, and there was kind of a rant about Star Wars fandom the other day from Paul Kemp, and this shows, I think, what some of the problems are in terms of fan relations. People from, not just from Lucasfilm, because it's not like Paul Kemp has a day-to-day job with Lucasfilm, but he's written books for them. And he says this: "Since I follow mostly political/policy/journalism folks, I'm late to the various fandom controversies, caught wind of the latest in Star Wars fandom. Let me share some brief comments." All right, so you might think that he's going to, you know, just say, look, the way that Kelly Marie Tran has been treated was contemptible. It's horrible that people are saying these kinds of things, because I assume that's what he's referring to, but I think he's going a lot beyond just the Kelly Marie Tran incident. And he says this: "There are probably some followers of this feed who use the term forced diversity, SJW, or politically correct or whatnot. If you're one of them, unfollow me. I don't merely disagree with you, I find you contemptible, a detestable human being with whom I don't want to have even indirect contact. Run back to your fellow neckbeards/incels or whoever it is you hang out with. Just stay clear of me. Thanks, and F you." Well, that was nice. Then he starts calling people man-child and all sorts of other stuff, and cursing at all sorts of people who disagree with him. You know, Star Wars authors never used to do this. And here, this isn't an issue of, you know, what my political stance is or what the correct political stance is or whatever. That doesn't matter. The point is not whether someone has one political stance or another. This never used to happen in Star Wars, where somebody had a different view on something than somebody else, and you'd have those who were authors working in Star Wars cursing at people, calling names, insulting people, calling them contemptible human beings. Chuck Wendig has engaged in similar kind of behavior in the past as well, just ready to call all sorts of people homophobic and all sorts of things, which I've seen directed at people who didn't like his book, as if that's the excuse for why they didn't like his book, when in reality, I'm not, and I don't want to go after Chuck Wendig, and I'm sure some people really enjoyed Aftermath, and that's great. I personally did not really enjoy that series. I didn't think they were written well, and just didn't really enjoy the story or much about them at all. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. But just this attitude of divisiveness that's being fueled not just by fans, but now by those who are engaged in producing Star Wars content, And it's just making things so much worse. And maybe this is just the rise of social media. And maybe I would rather not know what the authors are like. Because to be honest, now if I read a Paul Kemp book or a Chuck Wendig book, if they come out with anything new, I don't know if they will. Chuck Wendig, I believe, is releasing a Darth Vader comic. Now this is all I'm going to be thinking about, is the personality of the author and the anger of the person behind it. And the way that they treat people. And it's not really going to motivate me to want to read their works. And it's not because I don't think Chuck Wendig's a good author. Paul Kemp I do think is a good author. I've enjoyed his work. But, yeah, I mean, is this really the way that authors want to behave and those involved at Lucasfilm want to behave? Because there has been similar, not to this extreme, but some behavior at Lucasfilm from certain people on Twitter, who, do things like make fun of fan theories a lot and, talk about drinking fanboy tears and stuff like that. Which, and I get they're joking, but to some degree it kind of ruins some of the fun of, I kind of like the outlandish, crazy Star Wars theories when people are throwing those things around and even if they're like totally out there. But now when you have people from Lucasfilm just making fun of people who have some of these theories, it just kind of, I don't know, and maybe it's just that you don't want to see the curtain pulled back and see who's really doing the work and what those people really think and that they're really individuals and just human people with their own problems and anger issues and all sorts of other things behind it. But I think it's really harmed the Star Wars brand. And, while I don't think that, the low sales for the Solo movie are all because of this, it's certainly not helping. And, I used to be involved in a lot of Star Wars groups and forums, and anymore it feels like you just can't be, because everybody's angry at each other. And Lucasfilm and some of these authors are fueling this. And then people take sides of, well, I support this author, and so I think if you don't like what they said, you're a terrible person. And then the fans engage in the same kind of rhetoric that these individuals are engaging in, and then fans are fighting against each other. Lately, it's been the case that some Star Wars podcasts don't like other Star Wars podcasts. And you have to listen to this podcast, and if you listen to this one, you can't listen to that one. And if you listen to that podcast, then you're supporting their whatever views that they don't happen to like. And you're not allowed, not only are you not allowed to repeat the views of that podcast, you're not even allowed to listen to it, or you're supporting this stuff. And I just hate this division. And it's, I don't know what to do about it, because I think some of it is, from the authors themselves, those involved in the Star Wars story in different ways. But I think if you look at, the past, and some of the people involved in Star Wars, Lucas never did these kinds of things, and people were terrible to George Lucas. I mean, I love the prequels. I really do. Yeah, there's some bad dialogue, especially in Episode 2. But I love the movies. I love them all. And people treated Lucas terribly, but he didn't go out and call people names. It didn't matter how terrible people were. He had an air of professionalism in the way that he carried himself. And you see this with Ron Howard as well, with the Solo films. Ron Howard knows how to conduct himself on social media, and he's not, critiquing and attacking fans, despite some nasty things that they might say to him, because, let's be honest, anyone on Twitter or in any form of social media has people say horrifically awful things about them. If you look at some of my conspiracy debunking videos on this channel, people said pretty horrific things about me. That's fine. That's just part of what social media does. People shouldn't talk that way, but they do. There's no need to respond to absolutely everything that people say. I don't think we should really feel that need, but it seems like people do today, and they seem to want to insult and go after everybody. But look at someone like, if you're talking about the Kelly Marie Tran controversy, look at someone like John Boyega. He responded to it. He did it without calling anyone names, being respectful, and defending somebody they cared about. Same thing with Mark Hamill. And so I think there needs to be a respect and professionalism among those who work for Lucasfilm. And yeah, I know that there's crazy people on the internet that say ridiculous things. But at the same time, this is only fueling the fire, and this is just making things worse. Anyway, so the last video was a plea to fans to stop ruining things, and this is a plea to, those who are working for Lucasfilm, telling them not to do that as well. So, all right. Well, thanks for watching, and subscribe, like this channel for other Star Wars content. The most popular things on this channel are really my debunking videos, but I like making Star Wars content because that's really why I started this channel. But anyway, if you like this, want to comment, please do subscribe and all that good stuff. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks so much.